Right now at 5, some community members campaigned to save Joplin's historic Memorial Hall.
And we have an alert day set for today because of thunderstorm chances later on this evening.
Plus, the Carthage City Council finds Mayor Dan Reif guilty of 4 out of 5 articles of impeachment.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Well, good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5 a.m. I'm Elise Noe.
And I'm Lindsay Gaffney.
Yes, and thank you for joining us today, October the 30th, already Wednesday morning. And it's going to be quite the day today weather-wise.
It is going to be. We've had an exciting week,
Yes.
Strong winds, fire weather, but tonight we have a level 3 out of 5 severe threat for thunderstorms coming in later on this evening. So we can just dive right in, go ahead and start talking about it right now. Taking a look outside, temperatures are in the low 70s, so not so bad. It's actually pretty warm out there. Still dealing with some stronger wind gusts up to 30, 35, 40 miles per hour throughout the day ahead of the line of storms. But again, we've got that alert day set for today due to the strong to severe threat of those thunderstorms. Now, again, winds gusting still 30, 35 miles per hour, but right now it's clear. Winds are out of the south and we've got that warmer air, so temperatures getting up to low 80s again today. So winds currently about 29 miles per hour in Joplin, 26 miles per hour in Miami, 32 miles per hour in Sedan and Yale Center, and they're just going to strengthen as we head into later in the evening as well. Now, this is what we're looking at for this evening, an elevated risk for severe weather. This is a level 3 out of 5, and we haven't really seen a level 3 out of 5 since last spring. So we're getting some pretty strong storms tonight, mostly for our counties out in Kansas, but it's also clipping a couple counties in Missouri and Oklahoma as well. Now, even though the rest of us are not in an elevated risk, we are still all going to get that line of storms that's going to be moving in, strong to severe storms, timing around 3 p.m. to 12 a.m., with isolated storms ahead of the main line, 3 p.m. to 8 p.m., and then that main line of storms coming in after 8. Golf ball sized hail, 80 mile per hour wind gusts, and even tornadoes are possible. So we've got that elevated risk for tornadoes, high wind, and heavy rain, and a slight risk for large hail, though it's still expected. So we're getting these chances over the next today and even into early tomorrow morning, but clearing out. We did have a wind advisory, a couple counties for our northern counties, but started to expire because winds aren't going to be as strong as they have been the last couple of days. But as we head into later on this evening along those storms, winds could get up to 80 miles per hour again, and that is going to be just as damaging as any tornadoes can be. Now, currently, a couple of clouds out there, but really we're going to have a nice day today, a little bit breezy, and then those storms start to roll in as early as 3 p.m. So we get prepared for tonight. We could get some pretty strong damaging storms tonight. I'll have more details coming up.
All right, we'll see you soon, Lindsay. Thanks. Authorities charge a man after shots are fired in Joplin's downtown bar district. Over the weekend, police arrested 23-year-old Cade James Gilpin. He's now charged with unlawful use of a weapon following a Saturday morning incident on the 500 block of South Joplin. An investigation determined Gilpin was involved in an altercation. Now, according to JPD, while Gilpin was in the city parking lot, he fired a gun and a 22-year-old man was struck in the eye by a bullet fragment or piece of debris. The victim was rushed to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Gilpin posted a $10,000 bond. Well, Jasper County authorities charged 3 people for unlawful gambling activity. All 3 are citizens of India in the U.S. on temporary visas. They're now facing charges of felony promoting gambling. The charges stem from a Joplin Police Department search last week at Spin Hitters, a local gaming machine location. Police seized business records, cash, and 47 machines. All 3 suspects have posted bond. The Spin Hitters has remained closed since the search warrant and seizure. You can follow this story as it develops on our website, KOAMnewsnow.com. Well, a pickup rear-ended a MoDOT truck on Interstate 44 near the Joplin stockyards yesterday. Troopers say the trucks were traveling at highway speed. People were taken to the hospital, but the injuries were not life-threatening. And to be the first to see breaking news, weather, and sports, you can download the KOAM News app. It's available free of charge in the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. Just search for the KOAM News app. Well, Carthage City Council votes to impeach Mayor Dan Rife. This comes after months of postponement. And last night, 6 members of the City Council voted in favor of the impeachment and found Mayor Dan Rife guilty of all articles of impeachment except one. The articles accused Rife of violating his oath of office and failing to fulfill his duties as mayor. The board affirmed and declared Rife's removal from office of mayor of the city of Carthage as effective October 29, 2024. City Council voted on a motion of whether to adopt findings of fact. Now, 6 members voted in favor to adopt the motion, which was enough to pass. Rife's attorney then moved to make another motion to stay the removal pending an appeal. That motion was denied. Councilman Alan Snow will serve as mayor for the time being. Well, some Joplin community members are coming together in an effort to save Memorial Hall. The Joplin City Council is in talks to demolish the building, which was built in 1925 as a memorial for World War I veterans. According to city officials, demolition would cost roughly $5 million, while repairs and renovations would be closer to $37 million. 2 years ago, a majority of Joplin voters said no to a bond issue that would have funded renovations to Memorial Hall. But as KOAM Samantha Walker spoke with those who believe there are other options for the future of the historic site.
Joplin's Memorial Hall is a notable site in the downtown landscape, being used as a community space and venue for decades. A partial roof collapse in June 2020 closed the building. Since then, its future has been unsure, but earlier this year, City Council members voted in favor of demolishing the facility, with plans to potentially turn the site into a park.
Staff has been pursuing a process that's been council directed to solicit proposals for design firms to take a look at the site and the potential for a future park and American Legion facility. So we've gone through that process over the last couple months and few weeks. We've selected a design firm to bring forward to council on November 4th and get the next steps of that process.
For some people who have recently walked through Memorial Hall, they say it's their opinion that the building can still be saved and that demolition shouldn't be the only option.
Nothing felt dangerous, nothing felt like it was going to come down, and I was fortunate enough to walk through with people who are very experienced when it comes to historic preservation and even in the construction aspects of it and what it actually physically takes. And I mean, we were all of the opinion that there's no reason this building should be torn down.
Jill Hallbach is the chair of the Joplin Historic Preservation Commission and one of those involved in the Save Memorial Hall campaign, which hopes to encourage alternative options to demolition.
I feel like there are numerous other options. I don't think that anyone has like one set package deal option right now. And I would even go so far as to say maybe those of us who are advocating for Memorial Hall to be saved don't have one big idea for it.
Some encouraging options other than demolition emphasize that a revitalized Memorial Hall could be more beneficial financially than something like a park.
You know, it could be used for conferences and conventions and things like that. Of course, various types of, either performing arts or projection arts and things like that. It's been used for sports in the past. I mean, there's a lot of different things like that it could be used for, and it was in use regularly up until 2020.
For now, they hope City Council stays willing to listen to community concerns and be open to possibilities beyond demolition. Reporting in Joplin, Samantha Walker, KOAM News.
Organizers with the Save Memorial Hall campaign encourage community members to stay informed on what is happening in City Council meetings and attend in person if you can. The next Joplin City Council meeting is scheduled for November 4th. And that's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes coming up on the KOAM Morning News. Well, Jasper and Liberal Volleyball meet in the district championship. We'll have those details. Plus, widespread flooding is wreaking havoc across Spain and more rain is expected to fall. And we're tracking thunderstorms for tonight. We'll have what to expect with Lindsay Gaffney in the Skywatch Weather Center. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. An important time of year for high school volleyball playoffs. Last night, we had a district championship match between two of our local teams. Jasper Volleyball looking to win back-to-back district championships. Eagles play host to Liberal. Now in the first set, the Bulldogs start strong. Tegan Dyer gets the kill here, and Liberal takes a 4-1 lead right away. But here comes the Eagles. Shiloh Storm gets a Crystal Smith for the big-time spike. And we'd see a lot more of that. Jasper up 10-9. Later in the first, Storm to Smith again. When those two work together like this, it's bad news for the other opponent. Jasper takes the first set. Now to the second, Dyer tries to go over the top, but Alan Lehman is there for the block. Eagles take the second set as well. Now that brings us up to match point in the third. Eagles trying for their 31st sweep of the season. Lehman gets the kill for the win. Jasper Volleyball continues its dominant run. The Eagles win their third consecutive district title. They head to the Class 1 sectionals on Thursday night with a 32-1 record of the year. Well, college volleyball is in the midpoint of its season for Missouri Southern and Pitt State. The MIAA Conference Tournament is just under a month away. Missouri Southern was at home yesterday evening with a non-conference matchup against Drury. The Lions lose 3-1. That's the 5th consecutive defeat for Southern and the 10th in its last 11 contests. As we're just about a month away from the MIAA tournament, the Lions are second to last in the conference standings. And we're getting closer and closer to the Division II college football playoffs as well. And this week, we get our first look at the NCAA regional rankings. And these are the rankings that will decide playoff seeding next month. But in its first edition, teams aren't actually ranked. This is just an alphabetical list of the top 10 teams in Super Region 3, which includes Pittsburgh State. The top 7 teams from the region will make the playoffs as it stands right now. 7 of the top 13 teams in the country from the most recent coaches poll are all in this region. It's an absolutely loaded group. No matter what, the Gorillas will have a difficult road in the playoffs. Now over to pro sports. Last night could have been the last Major League Baseball game until next spring. It's Game 4 of the World Series between the Dodgers and Yankees. Now, the Dodgers had a chance to get a sweep, but the Yankees look like they're not quite ready to call it quits. The Yankees hold on and win this one 11-4. This forces a Game 5 in the Bronx tonight. Well, still to come, a new study suggests poor sleep in midlife years could mean higher dementia risk. Plus, a check of the 7-day forecast when the KOAM Morning News return.
Well, starting off this morning looking pretty good. Again, warmer than we should be this time of year, in the low 70s so far this morning. Now, we've got mostly clear skies, though a couple of clouds here and there. Overall, downtown Pittsburgh looks great. Winds are gusting still up to 35 miles per hour, so we still have that wind advisory for a couple of our northern counties. The rest of us are still seeing those stronger wind gusts, but it's not going to be as big of a threat until we get into it later on this evening. So we've got a couple of severe storm chances as we head into the afternoon, though right now we're mostly just getting some clouds. You can see those storms kind of firing up off to west of Kansas and even Oklahoma. Not moving into our area till later on this evening. Now the winds gusting up to 30 miles per hour for pretty much the rest of the afternoon, or late morning, early afternoon. So you can see this is 8 a.m., 30 miles per hour in Joplin, Carthage, Mount Vernon, Pittsburgh, Parsons, Columbus area. Kind of strengthening just slightly as we head into early afternoon. So 35 mile per hour wind gusts in Yates, Center, Iola, Chanute, Parsons, and Sedan. Now this is about 1 p.m. so right before the line of storms starts to move in, right before a couple of isolated storms start to push in as well. Now you can see the cold front actually pushing in maybe around midnight, but storms start to push in as early as 8 p.m. Now we've got a severe threat for storms tonight and actually an enhanced significant risk for tornadoes for our western counties. You can see the red is the enhanced risk, and that striped little dashed lines, that's the significant hatch zone for these tornadoes. Ahead of the main line, we're going to get a couple of isolated storms, which we'll talk about coming up in a little bit, and that's where we're going to see our greatest potential for any tornadoes to spin up. Now, hail is still a risk, but it's more of an elevated risk, so level 2 out of 5 threat for large hail, and then winds gusting up to 70, 80 mile per hour wind gusts. So just as damaging as any tornado can be. So we've got that enhanced risk as well for winds. Now, rain starts to push in as early as 1, 2 p.m. for a couple of isolated showers, but isolated thunderstorms start around 3 to 4 p.m. And then we're going to see that main line of storms moving in the later evening hours after 8 p.m. So we'll say 9 to about 3 a.m. before it tapers off. Now that's where we're going to see the most amount of rainfall accumulation, but this is where we're going to see 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. that possible threat for tornadoes. Now, this is what we're going to look at as we're heading into the afternoon, mostly cloudy skies. And then as these showers start to push in, you can see a couple of spots where they're a little bit stronger in the center. That's the isolated storms that we're looking at ahead of the main line. So when you get these isolated storms like that, they're isolated supercells. They're not really around anything else. They're not along a main line of storms. This is where we're going to see our most likely potential for any spin-up tornadoes, because you get good inflow, good outflow, so good updraft and a good downdraft, and that's how those tornadoes form. So ahead of the main line, this is likely going to be about 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. where we're seeing those isolated storms. We have that timing around 3 p.m. just in case some of these storms want to fire up a little bit earlier. But this is where we're going to see that greatest potential for any of those severe thunderstorms with that tornado tag. Now, as we move into the evening hours, 7:30, 8 p.m., that's our main line of storms, and as it pushes in. Now, we can't rule out any tornadoes along this line as well, but the main threat for the main line of storms is going to be those strong 80 mile per hour wind gusts. Now, it's 80 miles per hour at the strongest points, but likely around 60 to 70 mile per hour consistently across the line of storms. And as you can see, as it pushes in, now we're closer to midnight, heading into Parsons, Pittsburgh, Columbus, Girard, Miami, and heading into the Joplin Metro closer to midnight. You can see a couple of areas where it's going to start to bow out. That's where we're going to see that strong wind gusts, 80 mile per hour wind gusts. Now, we could get about 1/2 inch to 2.5 inches of rainfall in some isolated spots, so a good amount of rainfall, plus more rain chances as we head into this weekend. Now, today's that alert day, severe threat. Tomorrow clears out, mid-60s for our highs, looking fantastic for Halloween, and then we got more rain chances this weekend. That's Look at Your Forecast. We'll be right back.
Well, topping Health Watch this morning. A new study suggests sleep problems in your early midlife years could lead to poor memory skills later in life. The new study, published in the journal Neurology, analyzed almost 600 people's brain scans for a connection between sleep quality in people in their 40s and their brain age later in life. Researchers found those who reported more poor sleep characteristics at 40 showed an advanced brain age in MRIs taken 15 years later. Now, poor sleep characteristics include things like bad sleep quality, difficulty initiating and maintaining sleep, early morning wake-ups, and sleepiness and sluggishness during the day. Patients who reported 2 or 3 characteristics had a brain age that was on average 1.5 years older than people who only reported 1 characteristic. Well, we're less than 1 week away from the 2024 presidential election. And no matter who you're voting for, there are likely a lot of different emotions you're feeling, and that can impact your sleep. Mandy Gaither explains something called electsomnia and how you can help manage those symptoms.
If this election is causing you to lose sleep, you're not alone.
We call it electsomnia, so it's insomnia linked with the election season.
Sleep specialist Michelle Drerup with Cleveland Clinic says in her clinical practice, she's seeing more people being triggered with election-related sleep issues. She says the election can worsen symptoms in those who already struggle with insomnia and can also trigger sleep issues in those who don't have chronic sleep problems.
The person has difficulty falling asleep and they may be kind of thinking about the election or potentially what the future might look like, waking up in the middle of the night and struggling to fall back asleep, or even just poor sleep quality.
Drerup says to prioritize sleep before you even go to bed by limiting social media and election news exposure, which can worsen stress and add to sleep difficulties. Also, be aware of your negative thoughts and challenge them.
Just try to stay in the moment of where things are at right now.
Finally, Drerup says not to focus on the election what ifs, instead zone in on things you can manage.
We have survived many elections. We'll get through this, right? It's only 4 years, trying to figure out what I do have the ability to control. I'm going to go out and vote. I'm trying to, do things to support others to vote. So thinking about what I can do versus a lot of what's out of my control.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
The sleep specialist says to also remember to practice healthy sleep habits. That includes getting exercise regularly, avoiding napping late in the day, and limiting alcohol and caffeine before bed. And that's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
We've got a severe risk for storms tonight, elevated risk level 3 out of 5, and for our Missouri counties, a level 2 out of 5, so not as bad, but we're going to expect to see a couple of tornadoes possible, 80-mile-per-hour wind gusts, and golf ball size hail, timing 3 p.m. all the way until about 12 a.m., 1 a.m. So we're going to have some strong storms later on tonight. We'll talk more.
Right now at 5:30, Pitt State gets a financial boost for its chemistry and physics labs.
Starting off the day, clear skies, warmer temperatures, but ending with some strong to severe thunderstorms.
Plus, some young voters at Crowder College get ready to head to the polls for the first time.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Well, good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5:31. I'm Elise Noe.
And I'm Lindsay Gaffney.
Thank you for joining us this morning. And it's already, I know it's been windy all week, but it was pretty gusty out there, at least when I was getting out of my car. I had a fight to open my car door.
Every time I've walked into my house, I close the door and then it just blows right back open.
Yep.
I'm like, oh my goodness. Yeah, it's been windy so far this week. Yes. We're heading into storms coming in later tonight, so winds are going to stay gusting, but right now it's actually pretty warm. If we want to take a look outside, we can see temperatures are in the lower 70s for our lows this morning. Pretty warm, way above average, and clear skies, so we do have a couple of clouds out there. It is an alert day today because we do have some strong to severe thunderstorms coming in later on this evening, starting as early as 3 p.m. But until then, we're going to be mostly warm. Temperatures getting up to the low 80s, upper 70s, so mostly low 80s for everybody. Good visibility, high humidity, and we're also looking at wind gusts up to 30, 35 miles per hour throughout the majority of the day. As you can see, pretty strong winds still out of the south, but as that front passes later on this evening, we're going to cool down quite drastically as we head into Halloween. But it's not without any repercussions. We do have some strong storms, elevated risk. You can see in the orange, that's kind of clipping just outside of Pittsburgh, Girard, Columbus, outside of Nevada. So we're heading into Fort Scott area, Chanute, Erie, Coffeyville, Independence, Bartlesville, all of those areas in that elevated risk in Kansas and even in Oklahoma. Though the rest of us are going to be in a slight risk level 2 out of 5. Now the main threats are going to be golf ball sized hail, 80-mile-per-hour wind gusts as the strongest wind gusts that we could see, and a few tornadoes are also possible. We haven't seen a threat like this in months, and we're looking at the timing, the main line of storms coming in after 8 p.m., but with isolated storms popping up as early as 3 p.m. and those isolated storms could still be strong. So we're seeing some strong potential for storms. Now we still do have wind advisory for a couple of our northern counties all the way until about 7 a.m. But mostly we're all looking at wind gusts up to 30, 35 miles per hour. So not as strong as it has been the last couple of days. A couple of clouds are going to be passing in the northern counties, and then as we head later into the afternoon, clouds cover our areas ahead of these storms. Now, again, we're looking at isolated showers popping up as early as 1 p.m., isolated thunderstorms likely 3 p.m. to 7 p.m., and then you can see where our main line of storms is coming in, where that spike up to 100% of rainfall across the entire area after midnight, and then it starts to taper off. We're gonna have more details coming up.
All right, thanks, Lindsay. Well, for many Gen Zers, this will be the first time they'll vote in a general election. Now, they'll have to grapple with many of the same concerns as everyone else: cultural, economic, or foreign issues. Now, we visited Crowder College in Neosho to see what motivates some of these first-time voters.
Along with the presidential side of it is also the amendments, which I think are also really important to be thinking about, because it's not only going to affect me but everyone else.
The lottery fund, the Arkansas Lottery Fund that goes to Arkansas education, and there had been disputes about how that money wasn't really going to education. It was just going to a random account in the bank.
Now, the college also says they highly encourage students to vote even if they have to go home or participate in absentee voting. Well, the Pittsburgh Rotary Club hosted a forum yesterday featuring candidates for Crawford County Sheriff. The president of the Pittsburgh Area Chamber of Commerce moderated the event with candidates Danny Smith and Billy Tomasi. The forum was open to the public. Pittsburgh State University is getting $5 million courtesy of Uncle Sam. The federal grants are to improve and update scientific equipment in chemistry and physics labs. U.S. Senator Jerry Moran had supported the funding and was on the campus yesterday for the announcement.
How we can upgrade our labs to make a standard labs for incoming student, as well as to provide them hands-on experience on new technologies which is coming into the market. For example, Panasonic is coming, and there is a not many program which is teaching a student how to use or test batteries.
The university says the school wants to stay on the industry edge, so the students will be prepared to walk from the classroom to the work upon graduation. Well, the Joplin Area Transportation Study Organization, or JATSO for short, is on a mission to create a safer environment for all drivers in the area. Yesterday, the group held an open house at Joplin Public Library. Now, the latest studies show motorcycle accidents make up nearly a quarter of fatalities in the Joplin area, and substance-impaired accidents account for more than 22% of fatalities. Both are statistics JATSO wants to change.
Infrastructural behavior, distracted driving, impaired driving, those kind of statistics we have today, and our goal is to reduce the fatalities to zero. And that's our purpose here today, is just to get information from the public.
Now, you still have time to fill out the JATSO online safety survey. It's available through today on the city's website. And that's a look at our top news stories coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News. At least 7 people are believed to be stuck under rubble after a 10-story hotel collapses in Argentina. Plus, North Korean troops are now in Russia and will likely join the fight against Ukraine. We'll have the latest. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. Well, topping World Watch, drenching flooding rains are wreaking havoc across Spain. Emergency workers are busy making daring rescues. Now, take a look from the sky as a car got caught in the water. Some areas along the country's Mediterranean coast got more than a month's worth of rainfall in one day. Rivers are breaking their banks, sending damaging water into farms, ruining crops. Now, officials say the amount of rainfall indicated, quote, extreme danger, and they are urging people to stay home. And there could be more rain still to come. Meteorologists expect the rains to continue until at least Thursday, if not through the weekend. Well, a 10-story building collapses in eastern Argentina Tuesday, and at least 7 people are believed to be stuck under the rubble. The hotel is located in the town of Villagesell, 200 miles southeast of Buenos Aires. Now, fire brigades from nearby cities taking part in the rescue mission. The fire chief of the town says people were sleeping in the building at the time of the collapse. Although neighbors say remodeling work had begun at the site, the cause of the accident is currently unknown. Well, the Pentagon says around 10,000 North Korean troops are on the ground in Russia and will likely join the fight against Ukraine. The escalation is stoking fears of a wider war as the U.S. tries to keep up with supporting allies in both Europe and the Middle East. There's also concern about dwindling weapon supplies and U.S. stockpiles. Connor Hansen explains.
World leaders are warning of a dangerous escalation in Russia's war against Ukraine as the conflict nears its 3-year mark. Around 10,000 of North Korea's most elite troops are now training in Russia, and the Pentagon says a small number of those are already deployed to Russia's Kursk region, where Ukrainian forces have taken territory.
It's very dangerous, very dangerous.
Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky has been warning about the influx of troops and has asked his Western allies to change their policies to allow Ukraine to strike targets deeper into Russia.
Sometimes I'm very surprised how our big partners, big strategic partners, said that we should not cross red lines and escalate. But we think that Russia does it itself.
U.S. officials say they're monitoring the North Korean deployments, but have not taken any action so far.
We do maintain the ability to impose sanctions on both Russia and North Korea.
Continued fighting in both Ukraine and the Middle East is creating concerns over reported missile interceptor shortages in U.S. stockpiles. The weapons have been in high demand from allies defending against missile and drone attacks.
I think we do a pretty good job of managing our capabilities around the world to ensure that we have what we need where we need it.
Both Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin and Secretary of State Antony Blinken are scheduled to meet with their South Korean counterparts this week to discuss the North Korean troops in Russia.
And that's a look at some of your biggest headlines from around the world. We'll be right back.
Well, we're starting off the morning pretty warm in the low 70s, winds gusting up to 30 miles per hour, but mostly clear skies. You can see out downtown Pittsburgh. So far, it looks pretty good out there, though we do have an alert day set for today due to the severe storms that are going to be coming in later on tonight. Now, currently, some clouds in our northern counties, but that line of storms is going to be still off to the west and not moving in until later on this evening and early afternoon. Now we've got winds gusting up to 30 miles per hour. That kind of continues through most of the day, strengthening slightly up to 35 miles per hour. Parsons, Chanute, Iola, Yates Center, Sedan, a couple of our northern counties, but really our main threat for today is going to be the storms that are moving in along the cold front that's pushing in after 10 p.m. tonight. As you can see, line of storms. Winds are pretty strong behind the line of storms as well along that too. So winds pretty strong, 80 mile per hour wind gusts along those storms. And we also have possible tornadoes as well as a threat for the storms tonight. Temperatures getting down to about 50 degrees. So we've got those severe thunderstorms and winds are shifting as we head into this evening. Now we're going to break down the threats a little bit. We've got that enhanced risk for tornadoes in our western counties. The rest of us and an elevated risk, that's a level 2 out of 5, not so bad, but that hatch zone as well. So you can see the dash lines, that hatch zone is where we're going to expect to see the greatest potential for any development of tornadoes, and that's likely going to be ahead of the main line of storms. But again, we could still see that along the main line. Now hail, a little bit less of a threat, elevated risk for our counties. You can see kind of straight down the border, Kansas and Oklahoma, elevated risk, and then Missouri and Arkansas, a low risk, so not a big threat, though we could still expect to see some hail. And then winds, an enhanced risk as well, and that's again along the Kansas, Oklahoma, clipping counties a little bit, and the rest of us in that level 2 out of 5 risk. So we're mostly seeing threats for winds and tornadoes as we head into tonight. So clouds start to give us a little bit of overcast conditions for mid-afternoon. By 3 p.m., you can see a couple of these spots where we're going to get isolated showers, isolated thunderstorms. This is where we could see our greatest potential for any tornadic development, because when you get these isolated storms, they're called isolated supercells. When you get those, you get a nice inflow, a nice outflow, so a good updraft and a good downdraft, and that spins around each other, and that's how you get the tornado. So there's not a lot of interaction when they're isolated by themselves, which just increases that chance for any tornadic development. So that's where we're likely going to see the greatest chance, that we can again rule it out along the line of storms as well. So that's going to be 3 p.m. to about 7 p.m. and then we have that main line of storms pushing in after 8 p.m. So as that main line of storms moves in, our greatest threat for the line of storms, 80-mile-per-hour wind gusts likely, and that's going to be pushing in. You can see Parsons, Erie, Chanute, Coffeyville, Independence is about 9:30, and then pushing into farther southeastern Kansas and northeastern Oklahoma, starting to push into Missouri as well, closer to 11 p.m. midnight, and that's hitting Pittsburgh, Columbus, Miami, and then heading into the Joplin Metro after midnight. So as this line of storms pushes in, we're mostly seeing that wind threat you can see as it pushes in, and heavy amounts of isolated rain clearing out completely by about 2:30 in the morning. Now the amount of rainfall we could see, most of us, 1/2 inch to 1 inch of rain, but a couple of isolated spots, 2.5 inches in Parsons, 2.5 inches in Coffeyville. So a couple spots where we may see greater amount of rain chances. Now we do have that alert day today due to the storms tonight, level 3 out of 5 severe threat. And then we've got Halloween tomorrow, perfect sunny skies, temperatures in the mid-60s, so it's going to be fantastic. And then on Friday, starting to warm back up, but we've got more rain chances continuing through the weekend and into early next week. That's a look at your forecast. We'll be right back.
Well, zoo officials say a strange winged and horned caught on camera has them stumped, and outlandish online suggestions from the social media set aren't exactly helping. Jeremy Roth has today's Take a Look at This.
Take a look at a trio of bizarre caught-on-camera moments that are equal parts weird and wild, but mostly weird. First, a UK zoo is asking for the public's help in identifying this mysterious creature captured on a trail camera. Folks at England's Bristol Zoo Project posted to social media saying they are stumped by the bizarre creature, reported to be sporting both wings and possibly horns. Some folks' reasoning skipped straight to the surreal, while others suggested a simple double exposure photo flub. One creative fan even shared their own artistic take on the confounding critter. To be fair, the zoo did post this image of an oddly similar deer for, quote, comparison, and to be even fairer, the whole mystery just so happens to coincide with a Halloween-themed event at the zoo. So, what say you, otherworldly woodland discovery or clever mythical marketing? In case you missed it, police body cam didn't miss a strange sight spotted hopping down a Colorado City street.
So I know this is going to sound completely insane. There is like a baby kangaroo with a diaper on, like wandering around Main Street.
911 callers were understandably confused by this swaddled marsupial on the loose, and responding Durango officials
come here
couldn't help but be tickled by it all. Eventually, the pet Joey was rounded up and returned, pampers and all, and then was pampered by the captivated cops. Finally, we end with a massive alligator spotted sauntering across a Florida runway. While passengers did seem blown away by the perplexing predatory passerby, ultimately, this probably wasn't as much a weird sight as it was maybe just a very Florida sight. For Take a Look at This, I'm Jeremy Roth.
We'll be right back. Well, Halloween came early for some furry felines at the London Zoo. These spooky pumpkins were no match for some lion cubs who played with the jack-o'-lanterns. They ran with them as they discovered the inside dusted with cinnamon and ground cloves. Now, for 3 meerkats, their pumpkins were filled with mealworms. Sounds delicious. And the festive celebration is all part of the Conservation's Boo at the Zoo display. And Halloween is, of course, tomorrow. And on Halloween Eve, the country celebrates one of the holiday's most signature candies. Today marks National Candy Corn Day. Now, this sweet treat first debuted in the late 1880s, and candy corn's creator, George Renninger, initially made candy corn to resemble corn kernels. Back then, the candy's color featured yellow, orange, and white, but candy corn has evolved over the years. People have tried to add different looks and flavors to candy corn. Back in 2012, candy corn Oreos made their debut, and the candy is often added to desserts and other treats, especially this time of year.
All right, so we're looking ahead to have some severe storm potential tonight. We've got an elevated risk, level 3 out of 5 risk for most of our counties out in Kansas and clipping Washington and Nevada County and Oklahoma, and also clipping Bates County in Missouri. So we've got this wide chance for these thunderstorms. The rest of us in a slight risk. Main threats, golf ball size hail, 80-mile-per-hour wind gusts, and tornadoes are possible as well. Timing starts as early as 3 p.m. and then continues a little after midnight. Now, main line of storms moving in at 8 p.m. where we're going to see our greatest chance for strong, damaging wind gusts. But ahead of that is that tornado potential. So if you stick with us, we're going to talk more about that coming up.